Each of our guests will now give a short 7 to 10 minute introduction, and then I'll pose questions to them. And time permitting, I'll take questions from our audience. So please put your questions in the chat and they will come to the panelists. And if we have time, we'll definitely respond. And post-webinar, I know that our speakers would be happy to get back to individuals if you do have questions. Our first speaker is Brigadier General Amir Habibi, who is the founder and CEO of the Israel Defense and Security Forum. General Avivi retired from the IDF in 2017 with more than 30 years of military, counterterrorism, and national defense experience. Among his positions were that of aide-de-camp to the Israel Defense Forces Chief of Staff and head of the Auditing and Consulting Department of the Israeli Defense Establishment. Our second speaker will be Brigadier General Harel, Knafo, who was the commanding officer of the IDF Southern Command and the former commander of the Shomron Brigade. He's one of the founders of IDSF. So General Avivi, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you also, Harel, for joining us. One of my first meetings with Harel was in a time of real combat. Harel at the time was brigade commander of Shechem, of Nablus. It was in 2003, at the peak of the fighting around Operation Defensive Shield. And I was a battalion commander, and I was under Harel's command, and it was a huge challenge. And Harel is one of the bravest commanders I've met. It was an honor for me to serve under his command. I want to talk today about something that IDSF has been talking for a long time, for quite a long time, which is what is going to happen the day after Abu Mazen. This is a very crucial issue. We started talking about that maybe a year and a half ago. Nobody really understood what we're talking about. Why is it such a big deal? Everybody understands that there is a Palestinian authority. Nobody can imagine any scenario where this entity simply disappears. And now what we'll talk about is this webinar is a reality that we're starting to see. That is integration of this entity and everything that's going on in Judah and Samaria. Now, things that people were dismissing a year ago, suddenly when we talk about it on national TV, people start asking questions and getting interested because things are changing, and we'll discuss this issue. I want to, before we go into this very interesting issue, I would like to update you a bit about what's going on with the organization and in Israel. So you all know that we are in elections, and everybody here is very nervous about these elections, obviously. You know that because you have elections on the 8th of November in the States. During this time of election, the government decided to push forward a maritime agreement with Lebanon. This was followed by a threat by Hezbollah to attack on sovereign Israeli waters the installation of Karish that is supposed to start working and extracting gas. And the government, for a whole range of reasons, moved very fast with American assistance to basically give up everything that was in dispute. We gave 100%, or we are giving 100%. And we thought this is a terrible deal, a very dangerous one in the long term. Maybe in the short term, it might prevent Hezbollah from shooting Karish, but in the long term, it might be quite devastating, talking about our deterrence and how it will affect other places like Judah and Samaria, Jerusalem, Gaza, Jordan, and so on, and Hezbollah itself. And we launched a huge campaign against that, and the campaign was so effective that we gained complete control of all the Israeli national media. We were the strongest and most representative voice. And this was so dominant that the head of opposition, Netanyahu, when he spoke against the deal, he said, you should listen to the thousands of officers of IDSF. They understand exactly how bad this deal is. And the moment he used us as an example, of course, this immediately created a reality where many organizations, many of the radical left understood that, okay, here is a very, very dominant organization. It's affecting public discourse and the decision makers. And two things that happened. One, we doubled ourselves in a few days. We started with 6,000 officers, commanders, and operators, and within a week, we are 12,000 almost. And it's a huge growth. And of course, obviously, it's not just about 12,000 people who physically joined the organization. The effect is much bigger than that. And at the same time, we started getting very, very strong attacks, including very vicious attacks, personal attacks. I was attacked terribly. I was called a Nazi, a dictator, a fascist, the most terrible things you can imagine. Me, a brigadier general that fought 30 years for Israel. So I must say that the first 2 days were really, really difficult. I never experienced such an attack. And but we are warriors. When war starts, this is when we strive. We like wars. We are the kind of officers that enjoy fighting. So we reacted very fast, and we said, okay, you want to attack? Okay, we have supporters, and they will show you how strong support we have. And we launched a campaign of donations, and the people of Israel are amazing. They are supporting and saying, we are the supporters, we are the donors, and we are going to support IDSF, and we won't let you attack them. And I said to Moshe yesterday that I think that we need to also reach out to all our supporters in America, in Canada, and other places who care about Zionism, who finally can be happy that there is a voice of strong commanders and generals that are not going to give up. We're going to make sure that Israel is strong. We're going to educate the young generation as we do, and impact the society and the decision makers. And today, it's only 2 years, we are more than 10,000. Imagine where we'll be in 5 years. We are going to dominate the narrative in Israel, and we're going to bring it back to the classic Zionism, classic security way of thinking we had decades ago, and of course adapted to the year 2022 and onwards. But definitely we need to go back to the basics, to our values, and this is what we are doing. So Andria, having said that, I'll be happy to start the questions. I hope Harel can unmute himself. Harel, can you unmute?
Okay.
Yes, Harel, would you like to give us a few minutes comments on the topic, and then we'll start with questions.
להתחיל?
Well, let me put it this way. Okay, I looked something up. You were quoted as having said, the Palestinian Authority is just a comfortable interlude that we have gotten used to, but has passed its cancellation date. I like that. It delays what needs to happen, and it is an artificial breathing. It works against us and finances terrorism. All that is true. So what happens the day after President Abbas? Does the PA continue to exist? Is it going to be torn into shreds? What's happening in your estimation?
I will start at the beginning. We established this organization that we have. First of all, I would like to say and apologize for my bad English because I didn't practice it for a long time. So be patient. We established this organization because we felt that the politics in Israel doesn't go by what will secure the Jewish nation inside its country for generations to come. And we said that we got a long way out of Zionism as it used to be in Israel for many, many years. It happened because of several reasons. I will not talk about it now. So everything that we choose to do is how to prevent from harm to get inside Israel, and how do we establish with the nations, with the rest of the world, more efficient relationships that the Jewish nation will be safe in our country. To your question, I would say this first, a bit of a beginning or a startup. The Palestinian Authority never recognized Israel as a Jewish nation. This is the first thing. The second thing is they said openly that the Palestinian country will be empty of Jews. Those are two things that you have to put in your mind when I'm speaking about the rest of what I want to say. The third thing is the education of the Palestinian Authority constantly say bad things about Judaism. When I was a brigadier commander, and I know that it's now the same, when third grade guy learn math, one of the question is, 5 Jewish go on the street, 2 of them got killed by a jihad Palestinian person, how many left? We found it on books, and I can tell you that those books are, until now, you can find it also in the media. The fourth thing that I want to say, that the Palestinian Authority nowadays encourage a lot of propaganda against Israel. Also, they pay for terror attacks, not directly to do terror attacks, but after terror attacks are made, they pay money for the families and for the terrorists. If he's got in jail or if he got killed, he will get money for the rest of his family life. And this money comes even from the Israeli government. Okay, so this is 4 big problems that you have to keep in mind during all this session. To say what will happen about Mahmoud Abbas will go, you have to understand which powers are fighting against everything that happens in the Palestinian Authority. The first power, of course, the Hamas. The Hamas don't want, I don't have to explain it a lot. You saw what happened in Gaza. We withdraw from Gaza, the Hamas make an attack against the PLO, and they control the country, the Gaza Strip now, and it became, we call it a Hamastan, okay? We call it a Hamastan, meaningly, or what we mean on this term is, it's a terror country that sits on our southern part of the country, and it's full of rockets, full of everything, and all operation we made against Gaza Strip, we got missiles falling down in Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem, in many places in in Israel. So this is a terror country, okay? If this will come to the Sumerian and Judea, we will have a very big problem inside, in the middle of Israel. So the Hamas is a strong organization in Gaza, and it became very strong also in the Palestinian Authority. Who is fighting against Hamas in the Palestinian Authority? Mainly Israel. The Palestinian Authority doesn't do anything against the Hamas unless it's against the Palestinian Authority, okay? So the Hamas is a very big group, very strong group, and it's inside the Palestinian Authority. The second group is the Islamic Jihad, Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Now he gets his money mainly from Iran. He used to be strong in Gaza Strip. Two operations that we did against it specifically reduced him in Gaza Strip, but in the West Bank, he is becoming strongest and strongest with the time. Why? Because he got money from Iran. All the groups, all the events that you see now in Gaza Strip, mainly sponsored by the Jihad Islamic Palestinian that pay money for other groups, other new groups in the territory to do things against the Palestinian Authority and of course against Jews and against the IDF in Judea and in Samaria. The third group, it's a new one, okay? It's many youngsters who give up on the Palestinian Authority. They don't want them anymore. They say they are corrupted, and they trying to find a way to get weapon, and it doesn't matter to which organization they will be. With time, they are operating against Israel in the West Bank. And the fourth group is, of course, the PLO, which now they are the Palestinian Authority, but they are divided very much amongst them, and they have a lot of rivals inside. And this is the main problem that will be upon us when Mahmoud Abbas will fall. All the weapon that belongs to the Palestinian Authority will be divided to many little groups that will be able to do anything they want. And we in the IDF will have a very big problem to control this situation. So having said that, what are the possibilities that can happen on the field? First option is, as I said, the Palestinian Authority will divide to many groups as many rivals inside the Palestinian Authority. For example, Jibril Rajoub, he mainly in Jericho and in the Hebron. And I think that if he will decide to divide from the PLO, he will be the strongest guy in Hebron and in Jericho. So like him, there is 14 or 15 people that have enough power to control on this territory or in another territory. The second option is that one of the PLO will be able to gather all the rest underneath him. This option, I think, is the unlikely to happen. I don't think that any of them have the power to control the others after Mahmoud Abbas will go. So probably something bad will happen with that. The third option is that the Hamas will take over like he did in Gaza Strip. I don't want to say if it's good or bad. I would say that it's unknown possibility and unknown, the effect of it is unknown yet. It will not be good for the Israeli anyway. The fourth option is chaos. Chaos meaning everyone will do whatever he can in the place that they will have to defend themselves against other families. They will have to defend themselves against other harm groups in the territory, like what's happening now between Israeli Arabic. Everyone has to defend himself because other families fighting against them. And in this chaos, I think that, well, I would say about all those four possibilities, I would say that for my opinion, the most problematic for us, as I see it, is that the Palestinian Authority will continue to be like it is now, because this is I would say a status quo that even today is very dangerous and very I would say I don't want this situation to continue on, because even if I was the prime minister now, I would decide to close up this Palestinian Authority because it doesn't help in anything and it's bad for them and for us. So this is the most problematic option. All the other options give us a very, very good opportunity to Israel to establish a new form of security in the area. Of course, at the beginning it will be hard. We will have to take again the main cities inside the Palestinian Authority. We will have to clean up weapons. We have to do a lot of military operations. But after that, I think that we will be able to establish a new solution, which is not one state for two nations and not two states for two nations, because those both possibilities are very, I would say, we did an experience with two state solutions, and you see what is happening for 35 years. Only harm and only bad situations. Nothing goes well with this way. We will be able to restart all of the area again. And for example, to take, I don't know, Jenin, or to take Hebron, and to establish a new emirate, a new like Andorra. I don't know if you're familiar with the places like Andorra in Europe, which doesn't have military forces. The French give them security from this side, and the Spanish give them security from that side, and they are very independent. They have their own election. They don't elect for the France, and they don't elect for Spain. They are self-controlled, but in a very small territory, not many people, like Hebron, for example, and to establish one emirate like this. And after that, to take, I don't know, Jenin, and do the same in Jenin, and few years after that. And I think that the Palestinians will understand that is even the best way for them. And that's I'm saying because the Palestinians, as I see it, it's not a real nation. The Hebron people don't get married with the Jenin people because they are not the same nation. They came from other Arab countries, and they are not indigenous. The Jeninian came from Syria, from those places, and the Hebron people came from Egypt. So they are not the same nation. They are not getting married amongst them, and it will be able to them to establish a better solution for themselves inside their territory. So I see it as an opportunity to Israel to find other solution. That will be all for now. If you will have question after that, I will be glad to answer.
Yes, that certainly prompts a lot of questions. Before I get into some of the details, a couple of other background questions, maybe for Amir. I think the idea that Hamas or Islamic Jihad could take over has a lot of people worried because they seem more violent than the PA, which has often been described as moderate. Obviously, they're not. But do you see that possibility that Hamas, which already in its charter declared it will kill Jews worldwide, as possibly the party that will take over from the PA?
No, I don't think they can do it because the IDF is very strong inside the Samaria, and when we made the defense shield operation, we showed everyone that we can defend. I mean, we will have casualties, of course, because it's a war, but we can defend, we can conquer again the cities, we can give them very good protection. It will take a little bit time, but it will happen. We did it, and we proved to the Israelis, and we proved to Israeli government who didn't have the confidence that we will be able to do it. We conquered Nablus, we conquered Jenin, we conquered Ramallah, we conquered almost every city that we decided to conquer, and we established a good security there. So it's not that the possibility for them to take over really exists, but I think that they will try to do it while the PLO fight against each other.
Right. And Abbas is really the head of the PLO as well as Fatah and the PA, right?
Yeah, you saw Yasser Arafat was the head of the PLO during the defense shield, and we just surrounded him by tanks. We didn't give him to do anything. We disconnect him from all his forces, and we did in the territory what we wanted to do. So it's not a real problem. Mahmoud, Abbas, I hope he will go fast, because as fast as we go, we will be able to do and to establish a new system generations to come.
Okay, so here's the background question. You indicated since your youth that the PA and, well, all of these factions educate the children to hate Jews and kill Jews. And we know from having had several speakers on our webinars that the textbooks have been reviewed over and over and over for 2 decades at least. And our government in Canada, the US and elsewhere have been shown that these are teaching violence and hatred, but nothing's changing. Why has Israel not been able to shut down the school system and replace the texts and demand that they use different materials?
Well, I will not talk instead of Israeli authority. I'm not now in the army, so I can tell you that I think that our government, for many years, not only in this bad government that we have now, for many years the governments didn't do anything to change it. We have a lot of things to do against the Palestinian Authority, but each time we try to do something, the left wing in Israel rise up and said, we are not supporting it because this and because that. We have a lot of problems, of political problems inside Israel that prevent us to do the right thing with this education system. I can assure you this, because I was in the first Intifada and in the second Intifada. In the first Intifada, the Palestinians were much different. The education system in the West Bank was Israeli education system. Most of them knew read and write. Most of them knew math. A lot of them did first degree in Israel and not in some fabricate university, I don't know, in Jordan, on those places. And they were very well educated. I think that the main problem that we did in Oslo Accord is to bring back Arafat and 20,000 terrorists with him to control the area. because they demolish everything that we do, that we did. They put aside all the good people that the Palestinians had, like Hanan Ashrawi, like many other people. And this was the biggest problem. If we would have put real Palestinians on that time, we will succeed much more effective government for the Palestinian people. But we didn't do it. And for three decades now, the education system there, it's a system of how to make terrorists.
Right.
Most of when I was a commander in the Sumerian Brigade, we captured in 1 year 400 suicide bombers. All those 400 was a result of education system. They were not educated by terrorists. They were educated by teachers, by teachers in schools. And they were sent one after one. We had captured and killed suicide bombers, 23 from one class. One class, okay? They were not in high school. They were in, well, it said like 11th grade or 12th grade. One class of something about 32 people, 23 of them were terrorists.
Wow.
You can imagine what is happening there. And nowadays we have the same people who are ready. They just have to have weapon and someone will tell them, please go. That's all they need. And they will go and do it, no problem. In Israel, we teach peace. I think that we teach peace more than it needed, because in Israel, it's on the opposite. When you go to a 12th grade class and you ask for their opinion, most of them will tell you, we want peace. We don't want to fight. We want peace. We will have to find a solution to this problem that will not be harmed. Only when they are getting to the army and they see what is really happening on the field, they are changing their opinion and they are saying, oh, now we understand. We're talking peace all the time. They are talking terrorism all the time.
Okay, let me go back then to Amir, because it sounds like you would be recommending the Oslo Accords be not even amended, but eradicated. I don't know how they've never been followed, from what I understand, by the PA. They don't observe what they signed on to, and Arafat never agreed that he would follow them. He lied from the beginning. Do you see that as something that can be done, that they can be severed? And it sounds like, from what Harel has described, that you would go to the Qadar model for a solution, perhaps in the territories. Can you comment?
Yeah, first of all, from the Palestinian side, they never really did anything with Oslo, apart of what they are interested to do, which is some kind of coordination, security coordination, mainly dealing with trying themselves to survive. They need coordination for themselves. So basically what's interesting about the Palestinian Authority is that on one hand, like any entity, they want to exist. On the other hand, they are doing everything to destroy themselves. So basically, when we're talking about the education system I already described, obviously, when you teach hate and you teach Islamism and you teach Palestinian nationalism, obviously the young generation is more inclined towards Hamas, it's more inclined towards Islamic Jihad, and this is obviously backfiring on the same entities that is educating them. The Palestinian Authority. The other thing that they're doing that is affecting them is the fact that they are very, very corrupt. The Palestinian Authority are taking all the money from the Palestinians to private bank accounts of all the families of Abu Mazen and all the people around him. They're simply stripping the Palestinians from the few money they have, and they have billions in private bank accounts. And also, because it's an old regime with old people who are not bringing new people into the government, the young generation is pretty fed up. They don't want any contact with them. So they're breaking down into battalions, into new groups, like the Lion Den in the area of Shechem, Nablus, that I'm talking about now. So not only that you have Hamas and Islamic Jihad and fragments of ISIS and so on, looking at the Palestinian Authority, Abbas has two big challengers. One is Barghouti, who is in jail and is very, very popular. And also Dachalan, who is Fatah from Gaza, but now is in the Gulf states. And then you have these different people inside the Fatah, that the party of Abu Mazen, but they all want to come in when he goes, when he is gone. Now, what's the real challenge? The real challenge for us, for IDSF, is how to convince the government that the Palestinian Authority and Oslo is over, that they have to depart from this idea and start planning ahead. What I say to the heads of the parties, I say to them, listen, guys, even if you think that you would like to have the Palestinian Authority, you must recognize that it's falling apart, and you have to think what will happen when it completely falls apart. Now, the Palestinian Authority is not controlling Jenin anymore. It's hardly controlling Shechem. It's hardly controlling the area of Hebron. So already now, before Abu Mazen is gone, they're already in several areas not controlling them at all. So the government needs to bring new ideas. And this is what we do. We wrote for the government several different ideas. One of them is the Emirates, that Kedar, who is also a member of IDSF in a research department, talks about. We took this idea and we really developed it to a plan that can be applied. And we brought other ideas as well. And the government needs to start thinking about that, because if they want to affect reality, they need to come up with a plan. What do they want to do? So, for example, it's obvious that if Hamas or Islamic Jihad trying to gain control anywhere, as Harel said, the IDF will go in and destroy them. They are not going to let them control anything. But what happens if one of these Fatah guys with his militia takes control, let's say, of Jenin, and says, okay, I'm the sheriff of Jenin, now you talk to me. I don't answer to the Palestinian Authority anymore. And this is pretty much happening already. So what are we going to do? We cannot be surprised, and there's no reason to be surprised, because this is exactly what is happening. And the government is still clueless. They are not really dealing seriously with how they can impact and do something to try and shape this chaos into something they can work with. Now, I want to shortly explain why it's good for us, because many people will say, many generals that are not IDSF will say that probably the worst thing ever that can happen is that the Palestinian Authority will fall. And we say it's the best thing that can happen. And the reason is that the Palestinian Authority is an existential threat for Israel. First of all, they are the ones running BDS. So everything that Jews around the world are being affected of, behind that is the Palestinian Authority. When you go to the website of the BDS and you scroll down all the way, it says clearly who is running this website. It's the Palestinian groups that are led by the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority is using the worldwide BDS as a tool to destroy Jews around the world. This is a huge danger, and the reason why they can direct money is because they are in power. The other thing they are doing, they're taking illegally huge parts of Judea and Samaria. This is a real threat for us. They are getting billions from the Europeans. But if we destroy this entity, or it's destroyed by itself, there will be no ability to send money, who they will send money to. So by cutting the funds, by building local leaderships, by maybe working more with the local clans and not with the terror organizations, as we did in Oslo, we might actually find ourselves in a much better situation. And then we can do many things. We can apply sovereignty. We can take care of illegal construction. We can really diminish the ability of BDS to do something, because if they dismantle and don't want a one state anymore, what can the world say? I mean, if they don't want to be a state and they are not able to have a state, then it makes the claim for a Palestinian state something completely different. It's enough that one city, I want you to understand, enough that one city, one, says that's it, it's a domino, it's a complete collapse. It's enough that Hebron says we are not part of this anymore, and that's it. There is no Palestinian state and no Palestinian authority. And I remind everybody that they're already not
like what happened with Gaza.
Exactly.
We don't have now a Palestinian state because the Hamas took over Gaza. This is the only reason that we don't have now Palestinian state, which is the worst thing for Israel.
So Harel, is there going to be a need for Israel?
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
Will Israel need to take Gaza back? Because that's where a lot of the terror is also festering. That's where they train their kids in summer camp to kill Jews. The UN funded schools, UNRWA schools are funded by donor countries, even Canada. They're training hundreds of thousands of children that Israel doesn't exist. So is Hamas, Hamas to me becomes more of a serious issue simply because Gaza is still breeding this. Would Israel have to go into Gaza?
I don't think so. I have a very good, a very hard argument among us even about that. Many people say that that's what we need to do to take over Gaza again. I think that it will be wrong. First of all, it will give the Palestinian Authority the power to go to the world and say, okay, now we can do a Palestinian country. Right. The second thing, it's worse with it, we can deal with Gaza with no problem. We surrounded it. We are able to fire at them anytime they will fire at us. They have more casualties, much more casualties than us. And it's at the end of the day, they will stop. It will take a decade. It will take 2 decades. At the end of the day, they will stop. We are getting economically and military stronger and stronger each year. They have now very few options to harm us. They did have a lot of things to do against us 2 decades ago. Many civilians were killed during that time from Gaza attacks, and now they hardly harm us even during a big operation. So we don't have a really problem with that. We will deal with it, and it gives us a lot of confidence against the war. When we are talking to the world, it gives us a lot of confidence to say, you see what happened when Palestinians get their independence. What is happening? What will happen is what is happening inside Gaza Strip. that it's a very good reminder to the world, don't push on us. We will find solutions. We will find solutions for Nablus. We will find solutions for Hebron. We will find solutions for this and that. But unfortunately, only when we will have to, and not by a real initiative. This is our main problem with governments, not only this government. This government is the worst, but not only with this government, also in Bibi's government, yes. we said they have to take initiative. Sorry. And
I see that the world has never been on side with Israel on taking initiative, right?
That's right. Yes.
I mean, you talk about another solution. You've talked about what I understand to be the different emirates because of different clans, and I call it the Kedar model. But I think Ted Bellman may even be with us, and I would like your opinion on what he calls the Jordan is Palestine option, or what Martin Sherman has spoken of in terms of funding people to just leave. Can you comment on those ideas?
Well, always funding, encouraging people to live by giving them money is good. By the way, people don't know it, but many Palestinians want to emigrate. It's not something that especially in Gaza, by the way, but also in Judah and Samaria. It's relevant for any scenario. It doesn't matter what model we choose. But of course, for many years, the Jordanian option was the most favorite option, by the way, by the left in Israel. Even the Jordanians themselves have talked in the past about some kind of solution of a confederation. Most of the Jordanian society is Palestinian, at least 80%. And the king represents a very small portion of his state. So really the question is, what would happen if, let's say, this regime falls? What happens if the Palestinians take over? Does Israel have a backup plan to say, okay, if the Palestinians took over Jordan, this is the Palestinian state, and now let's see how we move forward with this idea. So basically, in every idea we talk about, it's always an issue of things that might happen that make this idea more relevant than another idea. So if, as we said before, let's say the Jordanian kingdom is very stable and strong, but the Palestinian Authority collapses, so Kedar idea might be the best. If the Jordanian kingdom collapses for any reason, it might happen any day, definitely that would be an option. I don't see the Israeli government, as long as there is the king in Jordan and it's stable, thinking about a Jordanian solution. But I can imagine that if this kingdom will fall for some reason, that might be an option. We have also other options like anchoring a state in Gaza and the Sinai Peninsula. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to recognize, and the world has to recognize, that trying to stick two nations in an area so small as the land of Israel, it's technically, it cannot work. It's too small. So anybody who seriously wants to try to find a solution needs to bring more land to the discussion. And the Sinai Peninsula has a huge potential. And it also would solve in the very long term the issue of Gaza, because Gaza is half of the Palestinian Arabs. It's 2 million people locked in a very small area. No real future, no real solution. So that might be an opportunity to maybe open industrial areas in the area of the other part of the Sinai Peninsula, encourage people to emigrate and work in these areas, and basically find a solution there.
Maybe you could each comment on what's the impact of, I guess we don't know yet, the American election on what's happening in Israel. I can't imagine anybody on this program right now listening to you would be here because they are happy with what the Americans are doing. I would assume that most people see this isn't good for Israel, and that the current administration wants to make friends again with the PLO, maybe let them open an office in Washington, put up an embassy in Jerusalem, I mean, tear apart all kinds of things.
I was asked why would the Egyptians agree to the idea of the Sinai Peninsula, and I must say it's their idea. Sisi suggested it in 2014. The reason why I suggested it is because Egypt is in a very, very complex situation, talking about their economy, security, lack of leadership of the Arab world. There were leaders, now they are not. They need something that will put them in the center of international attention, that will bring them huge funds. And this is why Sisi in 2014 thought it's a good idea. Obama didn't like it. He wanted the classic two-state solution, but definitely we analyzed a very interesting interest along what the Egyptians would like. It's a white paper that was written long before IDSF with the Miriam Institute. I think that we have to understand something. The Middle East today is completely different from anything we saw before. We cannot judge anything with the set of mind of what was the Middle East 20 years ago. It's not relevant. It's a new world, it's a new Middle East. We have peace agreements with Sunni countries. There are new emerging interests. So anything we think about, we have to think about in the context of a new Middle East, a different Middle East, of new interests. The world is changing. It's changing very, very fast, and we tend to many times get stuck in old ideas and notions about what is going on.
Thank you. Harel, can you comment on what can be done about UNRWA? I know there are campaigns to try to turn that organization into a real education organization, but would it be better if it was just eliminated?
First, I think that UNRWA is the worst thing that happened to the Palestinians, because actually it make this situation stable for generation to come, and people don't want to go to work because they have things from UNRWA. And you know, in every place that you give people money for nothing, what become from those people are people who are very lazy, and it's very comfortable for them to sit down and get money. And they make a lot of children, so you have generations. Now we are on the 5th generation now of people who doesn't go to work. So this is one of the things that harmed the Palestinian more than anything else. If you take, for example, all the Jews who came from Israel, from the Arab countries, my parents came from Morocco. And very soon after they landed in Israel, well, they were in age of studying, so they study until 18. And in the 18, they got to the army. And after the army, they started to work immediately. And they make families, and then make kids, and have homes and everything. All of them, all of my father brothers and sister, 13 brother and sister, all well educated, well done, very prosperous, and everything is okay. Now this happened because Israel didn't give them more than you know, one year of solutions, and after that they had to find a solution themselves. So it happens nowadays also. People who are Jews are coming from other countries without, some of them have money, it's okay, from France and these places, but from Ukraine, you have a lot of Jews who come with nothing, and they have a good you know, they have got from the government amount of money to settle down, they learn Hebrew and everything, and immediately go to the work market. The Palestinians became from a very good hard workers in the fields, in construction sites, in everything you used to see them in Israel. Now they became lazy and not so working. And of course, the main problem is the refugees who get the money from UNRWA. I think that they should be closed up many years ago, and every day that they are still exist is wrong for the Palestinians, not for Israel. Trump did a very good thing when he said, we are cutting down UNRWA, we don't give them any more money. The European, of course, increased their money immediately because they want to continue with UNRWA. But I think as fast as we can close this the world can close this organization, will be better for the Palestinians.
Okay, Amir, it looks like Israel, which had at some point a very close relationship with Russia, is now experiencing a lot of intimidation from Russia. And Russia is holding hands with Iran. What does that foretell for Israel?
Well, first of all, we see Russia, China, Iran getting more and more closer. I think this is the answer of the East to the sanctions of the West. At the end of the day, the East, if they want to be capable to pursue their own policies, even if these policies are completely against the will of the West, they understand that the main tool the West is willing to use against any decision, like, let's say, China taking over Taiwan or Russia taking parts of Ukraine, or maybe the Iranians moving toward the nuclear weapon. And they understand that the willingness to fight of the West, although the West is much, much more stronger militarily than the East, the will doesn't exist. But there is a will to use sanctions, and they are trying to organize themselves in a way that will diminish the effect of the sanctions, and not only diminish them, but create a reality where these sanctions are backfiring on the West. So when I try to think who is suffering at the moment more, the Europeans or the Russians, I'm not sure there is a clear answer to that. Mm. Europe is suffering a lot of the repercussions of these sanctions, and even in the US, everybody is feeling the inflation, everybody is feeling the prices of gas. So this is what is happening. This reality pushed Russia to the hands of Iran, and also the Iranians to the hand of the Russians. The other thing is that the Russians are fighting for a long time. They need new technologies, they need new weapons. Iranians have a very, very advanced industry with quite a lot of experience, and the Russians are taking advantage of that, and we are seeing more and more capabilities, Iranian capabilities in Ukraine. This has two ways to look at it. One, it's an opportunity for us to learn about the capabilities. Obviously, if they are used in the battlefield, we're able to learn what is happening. But there is also threats, and the threats, it's not only the weapons that are coming into Ukraine from the eastern side, it's also the huge amount of weapons that are coming from the US and Europe into Ukraine. I'll give you an example. There is a lot of javelins. It's an anti-tank missile, very sophisticated, huge amounts on the Ukrainian side. But the Russians occasionally get these weapons. They conquer a territory and get these javelins. And we're asking ourselves how long it will take for Hezbollah to have javelins, for Hamas to have javelins, and not only have Iranian weapons. So it's a very complex scenario. We are very experienced in trying to monitor things that are moving from Iran to Lebanon or from Iran to Gaza. But now it's weapons moving from Europe to Lebanon or Gaza. This is a new reality that we have to adapt to. It's complicated. Now, we are saying all the time, and I think that the Ministry of Defense agrees with us, looking at the decision of Minister Gantz now, that we shouldn't give the Ukrainians weapons and cross a line where the Russians will get really, really upset with us, and this will affect our capability to operate in Syria. So yes, we want to help the Ukrainians, especially talking about humanitarian aid and some other things. But the decision not to give weapons is the right decision. We are keeping, I wouldn't say great relations with the Russians, but okay. And we are able to continue coordinating with them. So this is complicated. And what we're saying is, with all due respect, the one thing that matters is Israel's national security. This is when you think how you should take a decision, think about what's good for Israel and do what's good for Israel. That's it. We need to take care of our own security.
And I see someone wrote amen, and I would say amen, amen, for sure. Thank you, gentlemen. This has been terrific. I have one last question I'll give it to Harel, and maybe if you have any other final comments, also Amir, but people are still with us. So this is the question. How is all of this going to affect or play out in the election, which you will be experiencing very soon? Is there, can't even say a party, because in Israel, you need a coalition.
You know that we don't talk politics, okay?
No, the question is someone, you said you've presented this to the public and that you're campaigning now to ensure that Israel's security is recognized. So is that being adopted by some of the candidates to support what you're saying? Are you seeing this topic affecting the election?
You're talking about the gas deals? Or
I'm talking about the need to enhance security and to identify the issues with the PA that could explode. And is that part of the discussion in regards to the election?
Definitely. Now, I can say as a conclusion that we wrote a very big paper, it's almost 360 pages, of a national security assessment that we are presenting to the heads of the security forces and also the government and the opposition. It was published widely in Israel this week that we met with the head of the Mossad. We also met with the head of police. We also met with the head of border patrol. We are going to meet the chief of staff. We are going to meet the president of Israel. We met with several leading politicians, and we're presenting this very, very unique and innovative national security assessment. You can all see the short version, 8 pages, in our website in English. We published it, and behind that there is a very big paper, very interesting paper.
Okay, well, I will encourage everybody to go to your website, also to become a supporter of Habithonistim, the Israel Defense and Security Forum. Also, please check out the Canadian Anti-Semitism Education Foundation at www.caef.ca. Thank you so much, Harel and Amir. It's been wonderful meeting you and speaking with you, and I wish you all the very best. Have a great day. Everyone, stay safe.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you for taking the time. We really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Bye for now.
Good night.